10, okay? And so we can tell because we have this right angle, and across from the right angle is always going to be the hypotenuse. Once you label hypotenuse, the rest is kind of irrelevant, okay? So we can set this up. This is definitely going to be our c squared. And either one of these other sides, it doesn't matter which one if you label A and which one you label B, okay? So you could label this one A squared and this is B squared. Okay, so we can set this up. We're going to have our A is x, and we square it, plus our B is 8 squared, equals our C, which is 10 squared.
Which equals 100.
Okay, and so we can go through and square those, and some of you guys will need a calculator today, so we're going to have x squared, nothing really happens. Okay, so you're going to have x squared plus 8 squared is going to be 64, and 10 squared is 100.
But what about the x? What do we do with that?
It says x squared plus 64 equals 100. Okay, and so our next step would be we need to get x by itself. So what needs moved? The 64. So we're going to say minus 64 on both sides. Okay, and so on the left side I got x squared equals, and 100 minus 64 is going to give you 36. Okay, and then our very last step, and some of you guys don't get the concept of square roots, but you need to, so you know how you have like multiplication and division kind of cancel each other out? Here we had addition and subtraction. We had a plus 64, so in order to move it, we needed a minus 64. A squared and a square root cancel each other out. Okay? A squared and a square root cancel each other out. And so we need to square root both sides. Okay, and so what happens here is the square root cancels that too. Okay, and so you're just left with x. And on your calculators, there is a square root button. It is in the second row, and it's like 3 down. Okay, there's a square root button. So take a second and find it. You can do them on your phone too. Okay, you have to turn it sideways. So you're gonna hit that square root button and type in 36. And it's going to be 6. Okay, and so we found our length of leg what? X or leg A. Okay, and so, I mean, you could write it in here, but you certainly don't have to. Okay, so we found the length of that leg. Okay, so look at 3. Which one is the hypotenuse? X. X is the hypotenuse. So fill that in the X spot, and then you put a squared. Okay, and then the other two numbers, it doesn't matter where you, like which order you put them. So I'm going to have 12 squared plus 9 squared. Okay, and we square every single piece. Okay, and so 12 squared is what?
120?
Not 120. 144. 9 squared.
81.
So we got 144 plus 81 equals x squared. What would our next step be to do? 144 plus 81 equals x squared.
Minus 81?
So we're not moving it, so we're just going to add the 144 plus 81 together. And that gives me 225 equals x squared. 225 equals x squared. How do I get rid of that x squared? Trevor, you with us? Because you look like you're zoning out. I know.
How did you get 144 and 81?
Because you could type this in your calculator, 12 squared.
Alright, so then you get 144?
Yeah, so on your calculator there's this button.
Alright.
two together.
Okay.
Okay, so how do I get rid of a squared? Square root it. Okay, so we're going to square root both sides. Okay, and so we're going to have x on this side. And what is a square root of 225? 15? I don't know. I'm assuming. Okay, and so we found the length of that leg. Okay, 5. Which one is the hypotenuse? Huh?
X. It's 9.7.
So, you always take the hypotenuse and you can put a little dot on it and draw an arrow straight. Okay? And I don't really know what's a better way to like explain which one is the hypotenuse, but it's across from the right angle. So you're gonna have 9.7. It's gotta go on the end because it's a hypotenuse. Okay, and then everything else we can fill in. So we're gonna have x squared plus 8.5 squared equals 9.7 squared.
So does it matter like what the order it goes?
No, so if you wrote 8.5 first squared and then plus x squared, those don't matter, but the c does matter. The c's always got to be by itself.
After the top numbers, alright.
Okay, so what is 8.5 squared?
289 over 4.
Huh?
It says 289 over 4.
289 over 4.
Our calculators are whack.
Yeah, we got two different answers.
What did you get, a decimal?
I got
I got
72 and 1
So on your calculator, there's a button right above the orange one that says S to D. That means standard to decimal.
I got the same answer.
It says 72.20.
Yeah, I got it.
So the general rule is, if it starts as a decimal, it should stay as a decimal. If it starts as a fraction, your answer should be in a fraction. And that's just, the proper way, I would say. But I'm not that particular, but it is easier to work with decimals, I think, than it is fractions. So it's gonna be plus 72.25. And then 9.7 squared,
94.05.
yeah. Okay, so we got x squared plus 72.25 equals 9409. What would our next step need to be?
Subtract.
We gotta subtract. We're trying to get that x all by itself. So we're gonna subtract the 72.25 from both sides. Okay, so these ones cancel, so you got x squared equals 2184. And our last step is always to do what? Square root it. Okay, and for these ones, because you should have got a long decimal, write down the first two places. You don't need to round, write down the first two places. So, and I'm gonna write down the whole thing so you can see, but, so I got x equals 4.67332857. Okay, I don't really care about all that, and I don't want you around. So even if this is a 9, just, this is your answer, okay? Write down the first two decimal places. Then we start rounding, and some of you guys don't round right, and then we get a discrepancy, and I don't just friggin' make it easy on yourself. Write down the first two places. Okay, take a second. I want you to look at 10. Don't say it out loud. Find me the hypotenuse. Okay, if you cannot, today my whole goal for you is to get the general gist of the steps and for you to definitely be able to find the hypotenuse, because you should, okay? So, our hypotenuse is gonna be that 12.4, okay? So hopefully you were thinking about that. It should be that 12.4. Okay, and we have a 10 and we have an X. Okay, and then you can go in and put all the squares on them. Okay, so 10 squared is going to give me 100 plus X squared. I got 12.4 squared is going to be 153.76. Okay, and we subtract 100 from both sides.
So you get
53.76. And what's our last step always? Square root it. Okay, so we square root both sides. So we're gonna have X is gonna equal 7.33.
So how do you get 153 per section?